Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wind Down Wednesdays. I'm your host, Paula Taylor, and this is episode 69. So tonight we're going to talk about illuminating new neural pathways. And before I get started, I want to just state a quick disclaimer. I am not a scientist. I'm not a neurologist. I am an intuitive with a great appreciation for science and a strong belief that science and spirituality can go hand in hand, and in fact that they inform each other. And so there are numerous studies, especially about meditation and how meditation can actually affect the brain, rewire our responses to trauma. It can build new neural pathways, which we're going to talk a little bit about tonight. But just keep in mind that my understanding of neural pathways physiologically is pretty limited. We're going to talk about this from a pretty basic perspective, which I feel like serves most of us. It serves those of us that are lay people that are not scientists. So any mistakes on my part scientifically or physiologically, forgive me. I'm just a person. I will say that there is a huge body of research out there, and if you're interested, if this is something that sparks your interest, then go out and explore, because science is really starting to catch up with metaphysics in a lot of ways. Things like energy, things like Eastern medicine, which is an energetic-based medicine, both traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine, which has an Indian origin. These are systems that are thousands of years old that we know work, and now clinically they're doing more studies. They're starting to understand things like electromagnetic energy and the chakras and the meridians and all of that stuff. So like I said, I'm a great appreciator of science, even though as a lay person, my understanding of it is somewhat limited, especially when you get into the more complicated things. Like sometimes I mention quantum physics, which I think is fascinating and amazing, but like, whew, way over my head. So I want to talk just briefly about how this subject came to me. So what happened was I realized that I was kind of guilty of tunnel vision. My husband and I have been looking at property in Mexico. I've talked about that in a few previous shows. We put an offer in on a house. It didn't work out for us. So we've been looking for other properties. And we got really focused in kind of on this one area that we were looking at. And so I started to get discouraged because there's just not a lot in that area. All of the things that were in our price range in that area we have already seen. Either they sold or for whatever reason they weren't going to work for us. And so I was starting to get discouraged, and then I zoomed out on my search, which is a literal sort of idea that we have talked about figuratively before, this idea of like missing the forest for the trees, being kind of so caught up in the midst of something in this tunnel vision that you forget that you're in a forest, figuratively speaking, that there's all of these trees around you. So I zoomed my search way out and I started seeing other opportunities. And so it got me thinking about neural pathways and the ways that our brains are trained. You know, we are creatures of habit, we're creatures of routine, and it can be really hard for us to break out of those routines, but it's really important to do that. So one of the things I realized is that sometimes we feel like we don't have choices. Like I was in this situation where I was like, there's just nothing and this is not going to happen. And I started to get discouraged. And then I stepped back, I broadened my perspective. I literally zoomed out on the map and oh my gosh, there's all these other choices. So I think we do that in a lot of areas of our lives. Like that's one kind of really concrete example, but I think we do that on a more abstract level, in a more broad level, just in the way, especially that we respond and react. You know, we've got these pathways basically worn into our brains that we call neural pathways. And again, this is the easiest way that this was explained to me, and it makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to talk about it in these terms. So neural pathways, essentially, my understanding of them is that as we think, we tend, again, we're creatures of habit. We tend to think the same way. And essentially then we wear paths in our brain. And we make these little shortcuts. And if you think about it in terms of walking through a forest, since I've already used that as an example, If you walk through the forest the same way every day, you're going to get a nice path worn. And if you want to broaden that out even more, because last week we talked a little bit about societal programming and breaking out of that, if everybody else is walking that same path, that really gets it worn into the earth. It's really easy to take that path because everybody's taking that path. And your brain wants to just keep taking that path. And if you think about this again in terms of a forest, if you diverge off your path, there might be a lot of really thick underbrush. You might have to like bushwhack your way through the forest because there's no path, there's no trail. You might get lost. It's scary. And all of this is something that happens to us psychologically and emotionally. You know, when we step out of our comfort zone, that is absolutely frightening to us. But it's actually really good for us. It's really good for our brain. So one of the things I want to say before I move on is that I think there's 3 kind of important steps in building these new neural pathways. And the first one is repetition. Learning a new skill, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, requires repetition. You have to do it over and over and over again in order to gain any kind of mastery over it. It also requires intention. So we have to intentionally step out of our routine. We have to intentionally do things a different way in order to get that to kind of stick in the brain, which is another reason why meditation is so good, because a huge part of meditation is intention. And then it takes persistence, which isn't the same exactly as repetition. I mean, repetition is doing something over and over again, but persistence is not giving up. And as I was thinking about this, I was thinking about, teaching piano lessons to an adult student right now. And he's kind of at that point where like he's learning, he's making progress, but it feels really slow and he's not where he wants to be. It's really hard, especially to learn a musical instrument as an adult, because sometimes your level of frustration, your tolerance for frustration is low. And as kids, you're always learning. We're always learning as kids. So that's a good time to learn things like a new language or music, which is a language, or to play a musical instrument, which is essentially translating the language of music into the instrument that you choose to play. And so yes, you have to be repetitive. You have to practice over and over and over again. But you also have to not give up. And that's where the persistence comes in, because repetition can get old. Repetition can be frustrating. Repetition can kind of bring up emotions in us. When we sit in meditation and we do the same thing every week, I can't count the number of people who have told me, like, I don't do yoga because it's boring. I can't meditate because it's boring. And to me, that's a trauma response. That's kind of like, it's like a defense mechanism. I can't do this because when I try to, I have to be alone with my thoughts, and that scares me. That's what I hear when people say I'm bored by this. They have to be in motion because they can't be alone with their thoughts. And that's completely understandable. I have been having a terrible time sleeping this last week, and what is keeping me awake? A lot of time, sometimes it's my husband snoring, but a lot of times it's my thoughts. It's that repetitive thought pattern that's worn into my brain, this neural pathway that I've worn into my brain, which is another reason that I think this subject came up for me. I need to retrain my brain to calm down and relax when I lie into bed, not go like, I'm on fire. I want to think of all the things, which is kind of how it's been for me for many, many years. So as I was thinking about this topic, this subject, I started thinking about that leap of faith process that we've been talking about for about the past month or so now. And every single step in there is actually an opportunity to create a new neural pathway or new neural pathways. So stepping out of your comfort zone. And that's great for brain plasticity. And that's, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, anytime you step out of your routine, you're challenging your brain. You're challenging those neural pathways. I have a friend who specifically will take a different route every time she's driving somewhere because it challenges her brain. It keeps her brain plastic. It keeps the neural pathway from getting worn so deep into her brain that she like is in a trench and can't get out and take a different direction. And I also mentioned my piano student. So learning a new skill, it absolutely takes you out of your comfort zone, but it's also great for brain plasticity. And one of the things that I'm always telling my student is that, you know, it takes time to develop this kind of brain body connection. You know, I can sit down at the piano and I know where everything is without even really having to look. Well, that's because I've been playing it for years. So it's very hardwired. I have a good neural pathway in my brain about where the keys are in the piano, but it took me time to develop that. And it's never too late to develop these neural pathways. It's never too late to learn a new skill. It just takes courage, and then it takes persistence. It takes, you know, not giving up when you start to get frustrated, which I am absolutely guilty of. I'm not a super patient person, and so that is something that I've had to work on, is not getting frustrated and giving up on things. So then the second step of that leap of faith process is loosening your grip. And actually the second and third I feel like are related. Loosening your grip, and then the third step is releasing your attachment to the outcome. And both of these things are really about recognizing that control is an illusion and retraining ourselves to be calm and at ease, even though we're not in control of things. And I was thinking about this earlier today. I was thinking about trauma in childhood, especially. And the idea, you know, I see memes and stuff about people say things like, if I knew what it was like to be an adult, I wouldn't have wanted to grow up so quickly. But I think a lot of people who had trauma in their childhoods had to grow up quickly. They didn't have a choice. And so, you know, if you were a kid who really wanted to be an adult, that wasn't about adult things necessarily. I think a lot of that is about control. It's about, I'm in a situation where I feel completely out of control, and I think the adults around me have control. So once I get to be an adult, I'll have control. And that's really a disservice. I mean, honestly, we should teach kids from a young age that control is an illusion, because what it leads to is something that I've been guilty of for many years, which is this gripping, which is kind of thinking, you know, if I just hold on tight enough, I will be able to control the outcome of things. And I can't. I just can't. And the more that I loosen, the more that I let go, the more that I release my attachment to the outcome, the more I open my mind to new neural pathways. I release the gripping in my mind space so that I'm open-minded, so that I'm open-hearted, so that when new things come to me, I don't block them out. I don't say like, well, I don't know, that's new and different and weird. And I might still have that initial response. It takes a long time to retrain your brain. But awareness is always the first step. I haven't said that in a while, but in any kind of spiritual or even emotional, psychological process, you can't change something if you're not aware of it. So just being aware when you have that like knee-jerk reaction instead of like a calm response, which is what we're going for. When you start to get that knee-jerk emotional reaction, or when something comes into your orbit and you're like, oh, no, thank you. Being aware that you have the opportunity to change that, recognizing that that is something that you have the opportunity to change if you loosen your grip, if you recognize that, yes, new things are scary, but sometimes scary is fun. Sometimes scary is good. And if you came from a background of trauma, scary was not good. Scary was scary. And so stepping out of that mindset, that neural pathway that got worn into your brain at such an early age, that being out of control is scary, that new things are scary, that bad things are going to happen if you don't control the situation, it's really hard to let go of that. And that's one of the reasons that I love meditation so much. It's one of the reasons that I started this show. It's one of the reasons that I keep going with this show, is because meditation is a safe space to explore letting go of some of that stuff that at one point was probably a survival skill for you, maybe very literally a physical survival skill for you, maybe an emotional survival skill for you. But at a certain point in your life, it is no longer serving you. It has not been serving me for years to be gripping and controlling. All it's done is create tension in my body. It's created that gripping and tension in my mind so that I was afraid of new situations. And the more, again, in ease I get, the more relaxed I get, the more I meditate and go to that safe space where I can explore new things without taking any risk, the more then I can actually take the risk in real life. Again, this work has real world applications, and meditation is such a powerful tool. And so that's what we're going to do tonight. So the last thing I want to say is that we're talking here a lot about flexibility. I haven't used that word, but that's kind of what we're talking about. Plasticity of the brain, flexibility of the brain, flexibility in the emotional and psychological systems in the mind and the emotions. And as I was thinking about flexibility, I often use yoga examples, but flexibility requires strength. So if you have a good yoga teacher, they're going to tell you that in order to be flexible, you need, first of all, strong roots. Like if you're going to stand on one leg and bend really far to the side, if your root's not strong, it doesn't matter how flexible your side is, you're just going to fall over. And the other thing they talk about in yoga is muscular engagement, is that in order to be flexible, we don't just flop over because that's how we hurt ourselves. You can actually pull muscles or injure tendons, which I have done before because I didn't know this for a lot of years. You have to engage your muscles to kind of support that flexibility. And so if you take that like literal example and you bring it into this kind of figurative, abstract thing that we're talking about, I think that the roots part is fairly clear. We've talked about roots. We spent some time, we spend time every meditation pretty much sending a root into the ground, bringing this energy out of the headspace and down into the ground, building strong roots, because that's our safety. That's our real safety, not trying to control anything outside of ourselves, sending energy down into the earth and allowing that energy of the divine, of that unconditional love to come into our body. That is our safety. That is our protection. So we spend a lot of time building roots. But in terms of the muscular engagement, I would call that energetic engagement. And so these are kind of the parts of building flexibility: strong roots and then energetic engagement. And what I mean by energetic engagement is doing the work that we do on this show, doing this spiritual work, doing the work of bringing clarity, expansion, and harmony to those parts of yourself that are still gripping, that are still in fear, and doing it with love and doing it with gentleness and being patient and recognizing that it's a process. All of that stuff allows us to build this healthy flexibility, this strength in flexibility. I just looked at my notes and I was like, oh, what did I miss? The other thing that I had written down that I was like, should I say this? Should I not say this? But the other thing, I think, in terms of strength, we're talking about how flexibility requires strength. Asking for help when you need help is a form of strength and a form of flexibility. If you're somebody who's never asked for help and you've been very, kind of internalized and not really reaching out, then it may take a lot of courage to do that. And that's part of that flexibility, but that's also part of that strength. And it's it's kind of like the yin and the yang. They balance each other. If you have all flexibility and no strength, then you don't have boundaries and people will just walk all over you. And that's not spiritual. Sometimes that's martyrdom. That doesn't serve you. That doesn't serve the people around you. So true flexibility requires strength. If you're all strength with no flexibility, we call that rigidity. So that's when you've got like really solid walls up and no one can get in and you can't get out and you're just stuck. You're stuck People can't help you. You can't ask for help. That's rigidity. So what we're looking for, as usual, is flow. We're looking for both strength and flexibility. And tonight in our meditation, we're going to bring this idea of illuminating neural pathways into the meditation. And so I did this meditation myself a couple days ago. I actually did this kind of as a walking meditation. And I found it to be really beautiful and really powerful. And so I wanted to share it here. So just briefly, what I want to say is that I'm going to tell you at the beginning of the meditation to come into your brain. And I want to explain what I mean by that. I feel like a lot of you, we've been doing this. You understand kind of this idea of visualization and intention. Some of you may be starting to be aware of the movement of energy, so you can actually move your sort of energetic focus up into the brain, up into your mind space. Last week, I think we did a meditation where we spent time in the heart space. So use whatever tool works the best for you. I'm going to describe some visualizations as I usually do. I find that to be really helpful. So you can visualize. When I was doing this, I was actually seeing my brain. And my brain might look like the brain from the Heart and Brain cartoons. It doesn't have to be an anatomically perfect brain, but that's kind of what I was using as a visualization. You can just use intention. You can just send that intention into your brain. And or you can also focus energetically in this mind space, in the actual brain, in your head. And all of those can be effective. So just use whatever works the best for you. So let's meditate together. So get yourself nice and comfortable. I do recommend sitting up for this meditation if you can, just to stay engaged. This is going to be a fairly active meditation. So it's helpful to sit up just to keep your brain kind of engaged. But be comfortable. If you're sitting up in a chair, you might want to put a cushion behind your back. If you're sitting on the ground, you might want to lean up against a wall or get some pillows and put them underneath your bottom. Just get really comfortable. Let yourself start to settle. Let go of anything that happened earlier today. Let go of anything that's coming ahead the rest of the night or the rest of this week. Just come fully present into the room, into this space that you're sitting in. And just briefly here, so we can get fully into the meditation, I want you to take 3 really deep breaths, deep oxytocin breaths, letting that belly float out, sighing that breath out through the mouth. And with the first breath, I want you to activate that crown chakra, open up the top of your head with your intention. Breathe in, draw that breath in through your head and neck and your chest, and then sigh it out down the rest of the body and into the ground. On your second breath, breathe in, drawing that energy through the head, through the chest, into the belly and the hips, and then sending that energy down into the earth with your exhale. And then on your third breath, go ahead and breathe in through the top of the head, drawing that energy all the way down through the legs and the knees into the feet, and then sighing it out deep into the ground there. Feel your connection to the earth. Feel your feet or your bottom, whatever's contacting the ground. Really anchor to the earth. You can imagine sending roots, like tree roots, out from your feet or your bottom or both. You can imagine yourself like a lighthouse with your foundation traveling deep into the bedrock below you. Let yourself feel really supported here. Recognize that the earth is here to support you. Recognize that this unconditional divine energy that we work with every week is here to support you. And then as you're ready, bring your awareness, bring your intention into your brain, your physical brain. You can include the mental space of the brain here as well, but we're really working with the actual physical brain tonight in this meditation. Maybe you picture your brain, maybe you imagine that you're standing inside of your brain. Maybe you're just looking at it. And as usual, if any emotions come up, if anything starts to feel uncomfortable, you can take a break. You can take some nice deep oxytocin breaths, sigh them out. You can get up and move around if you need to. Just be easy with yourself here. Don't put any pressure. You can always repeat this meditation. But as you start to see your brain here, notice that there are some areas of the brain, little pathways, that are sort of lit up. Perhaps you see the yellow brick road from The Wizard of Oz. Perhaps you just see lights. Perhaps you see forest paths or beach paths. Whatever you see here, just notice that there are parts of your brain that are sort of lit up with these paths. And then the rest of the brain is maybe not looking so bright. Maybe it's a little dim or dark. These are the areas of the brain that maybe you're not using or that you haven't illuminated the neural pathways in yet, and that's okay. That's what we're here to do tonight. And again, be easy with yourself about this. Let go of any judgments that come up. Recognize that you're always doing your best in any given moment, and that's exactly perfect, that you are made to be exactly as you are. We're just encouraging some plasticity here. This is not a judgment about how our brain is currently functioning. It's just a little bit of self-care, a little bit of love. We're taking our brain to the spa for a spa day. So start to allow these beautiful illuminated pathways in your brain that already exist. Allow that beautiful light to spread. Allow those pathways to illuminate more of your brain. And if that's not working for you visually or with your intention, then just imagine beautiful light coming into all areas of your brain. This is all about illumination here, just bringing light, bringing fresh energy. Just as plants need light, we're bringing food to the brain in the form of light here. And if you're seeing the pathways, allow the pathways that are well worn to expand. Allow those pathways to invite other pathways to light up. And as you do this, it may be slow going, it may not work at all, and that's fine. Again, you can always come back and repeat this. But you may find almost like little tendrils or even like a delicate spider web. You might find that these pathways in your brain are starting to spread. They're starting to illuminate more areas of your brain. And again, breathe through any feelings that are coming up here. Let go of any judgments. Be easy with yourself. But enjoy this illumination. Notice how beautiful this is. If there's a certain area of your brain that you'd like to focus on, you don't need to know the scientific region of the brain, but let's say you're working on sleep, for example. Send some beautiful light into the area of your brain that is responsible for deep and healthy sleep. If you'd like, you could focus on the area of the brain that deals with concentration. Perhaps you send some beautiful light into the area of the brain that helps you with focus and concentration. Perhaps you send some beautiful light into the area of your brain that helps you relax, that helps ignite that parasympathetic response and let go of that fight, flight, or freeze. Send some beautiful light into the relaxation area of your brain. Any area that comes to you here intuitively is perfect. Just send some beautiful light into any area of the brain that calls to you. And again, You don't need to know the scientific area. You don't need to pinpoint it geographically. Just allow your intention and this beautiful divine light to illuminate the area of the brain that's calling for your focus. And now I want you to take a few steps back, or maybe fly back. I want you to see how beautiful this is from afar. See all this beautiful light, all these beautiful new pathways you've illuminated. These are just new options, new choices you can make in the future. Keeping yourself young, keeping that plasticity in your brain. Keeping that flexibility and strength working in perfect harmony as your brain functions very efficiently with this new illumination as these new neural pathways present themselves to you. Set the intention here to activate new neural pathways in your day-to-day life. Give yourself permission to step out of your comfort zone, to step out of your routine. Give yourself permission to loosen your grip, to detach from the outcome, and to be flexible. And again, just look for a moment at how beautiful this lit up brain is. It works so hard for you. Send some love and gratitude into your brain now. This is an organ that works so hard to keep us thinking and functioning and breathing and feeling. Perhaps you allow this light to come down into the base of the brain and even into your spinal cord, all the way down your back, down to that tailbone, allowing this light now to come out into all of the nerves that work with your brain. These peripheral nerves that allow you to move your hands and legs and feet and feel pain. Send this light into all the little nerves inside your body that allow your organs to function. See this beautiful roadmap of your entire nervous system now illuminated with this gentle, healing, beautiful light with these beautiful pathways. Let energy flow through all of these pathways now. Just set the intention to send energy in the form of love, in the form of harmony and clarity and expansion into all of these beautiful pathways of your nervous system, of your brain, of your spinal cord, of all of those nerves. And again, send some gratitude here for all of the work this part of your body does without you even being aware of it. What a beautiful miracle this is. A miracle of science, of anatomy and physiology. And stay here for a last few moments, enjoying this illumination, sending energy to any part that's calling for your attention here. Perhaps you're sending some energy to those peripheral nerves if you have any tingling, your hands or feet if you have issues with that. Maybe you're sending extra energy into the nerves that aid in your digestive system. You can choose any bodily system that's calling your attention here, anything that you'd like to send this beautiful clarity, expansion, and harmony into. And just sit with this for a few moments. Sit with this beautiful illumination. Allow yourself to send this wherever your intuition is guiding you. And I'm going to bring some beautiful sound in just to help direct this energy. So just allow yourself to enjoy the last few moments of the meditation in this illumination. Allow the sound to bring further harmony into your system. Allow yourself to really relax here. Let that parasympathetic nervous system take over. Let yourself come into ease. You are so safe here. And just enjoy the next moment or two. Set any last intentions, send any affirmations that come to you here into your nervous system, into your brain, leaving this beautiful light here, promising to tend to this light, to come back and encourage these pathways to continue to show themselves, giving yourself permission to step off of those worn pathways and try out some new horizons, try out some new roads. Bringing your awareness now back into the rest of your body. Maybe pausing at the heart center for a moment, taking a deep breath, sending some gratitude to yourself for completing this beautiful practice, for sending love to your brain and your nervous system. If you'd like, you can allow that crown chakra at the top of the head to close or leave it open for the highest good. And once more, drawing that beautiful strength, that support of divine energy in through the top of the head, into the beautifully illuminated brain, down that brain stem and into your spinal cord, all the way down the spine now through the chest and the mid back, through the lower back, down into the tailbone and the hips, and then allowing that energy to flow down the legs into the knees and the feet, reconnecting with that beautiful circuit of divine and earth energy, support from above, support from below, love coming in from all directions here. Take a few more deep breaths. You can let them be oxytocin breaths if you'd like, whatever calls to you here. Just slowly coming back into the room, into your body, into your mind. And affirm with me, I am fully present in my body. I am fully present in my body, and I am open to new experiences. I am fully present in my body, and I am balanced in strength and flexibility. Sat Nam. As you're ready, you can begin to wiggle your fingers and toes, maybe rotate your ankles and your wrists, move your neck around if you like, shrug your shoulders a few times. Just coming fully back into your body. And as you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for committing to open your mind, to illuminate your mind, to give your brain the self-care that it needed tonight, that I know mine needed it. And I feel clear. I feel good now. I hope you feel the same way. Have a beautiful rest of your evening. Have an illuminated rest of your week. And I will see you next week for Wind Down Wednesday.